Hey guys, Michael from Modulus here. So today I want to talk about attenuators. Attenuators are something you're going to find you're going to need if you're building vintage style amps and you play at home with a family, or maybe you live in close quarters to other households and you can't get to turn your amps up very loud. I did a lot of research into attenuators about 10-15 years ago. There was quite a few sort of designs available on the forum groups, and really I never really found one that I thought this just makes the amp sound exactly as it should but at low volumes. I'm kind of going for sort of TV volumes. So really a bit of a disappointing thing. I think the sort of resistive attenuators like air brakes and things are great for taking 3, 6 or 12 dB off your sound levels, which is really helpful at gigs, but not really helpful in the house. So then moving on, a few years ago, I visited a friend down south and he had a 2 notes Torpedo style unit. It wasn't this one, it was the studio version. And I heard one of my amps played through that and how he could control the volume with it, and was blown away. It was really gave you full control over the volume and the quality of your sound. Now, so I went off and bought one of these, which was great. I've also since bought the Suhr Reactive Load, which is a slightly different unit. That's just this is just a plain reactive load, and but both of them perform very well. So what I'm going to do now is do a sound check for you, so you can actually hear both of these units in action. What I've done is I've recorded it with this Modulus Super Deluxe amp here, which is a new kit we've got in the shop. And I've recorded them both just using the loads in both of these, and then I've applied speaker simulation in the software afterwards. So from a reference point of view, the only difference between these two is the load boxes in them. Go and have a listen to that. Let me know which one you prefer. It's going to be sample A or sample B. So it's a blind test for you. And then before I tell you what it is, make sure you put a comment in there saying which one you prefer. And it'll be interesting to see the consensus on that. And let's get to it. Okay, so we've heard all that, and my preference was sample A, and sample A is the Suhr box. Now, I've had both of these now for a while, and the Suhr box, to me, the playing feel is what wins it for me. And you can kind of hear it in the frequency range. It's got a much more of a bounce in the low end, and the soft top end is just a bit sweeter. where the Torpedo Live really is a mid-pushed sort of sound. It's got a lot more mids in it. Now, the thing is, this is comparing two things that both have reactive loads in it, but really the Torpedo is a slightly different product because it's actually got the speaker simulations are built into it. I could plug my amp into this and then just attach headphones and play straight away as a practicing tool, which makes it a great product. Okay. There are other load boxes available, like the Oxbox and the Boss Expander. They're in a whole other price bracket range, and that's because they have a built-in power amp section to them. Okay, so we've established that both of these sound different, and the main reason is because the reactive loads are designed differently. And let's actually have a look under the covers and see what they look like. Okay, so this is the 2 notes Torpedo. You can see those 4 main sections, power supply and the modeling side. And this is the part that I'm really interested in comparing between the two different products. This is the load that your amplifier actually sees. So it's made up of a couple of parts really that are fairly straightforward. So underneath this big heatsink is 2 50-watt 4-ohm power resistors. And then on the board they've got 3 wire-wound resistors that are all in parallel really in the load. And then they also have the reactive part of the circuit, which is this little inductor here, and the 2 capacitors. So all those parts are all off the shelf. They have some extra circuitry here and a fan being driven, and they have I think it's maybe a thermocouple watching for heat of this to make sure it's not being overloaded. But really the load part of it's fairly simple. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this is the Suhr Reactive Load, and this is the resistive part of the load, and this is the reactive part of the load. So you can see they've got the 2 large inductors. I don't know if these are off-the-shelf parts or if they're custom made. They look like they're possibly custom made for this. These will be standard capacitors. These 3 are actually in parallel, so that's just to get the ratings up. And this is a little line out transformer to isolate the output from the load and the amp. And the cool thing about this fan is it only runs when it is fully loaded, when it gets enough voltage to run. And that's it. If you really want to get into designing these and trying to understand how they work, best bet is to go look at that white paper on the Aitken website that I mentioned earlier, and probably take the schematic that's there and model it up in a simulation program like LT-Spice, which is free and available to be downloaded. And you can actually look at the impedance curves and how the different components change and affect that curve. I've definitely done that. You can see that here, and it was very useful to try and understand what's going on. Okay, so say now you don't want to use impulse responses or speaker simulation or have to plug into a computer or spend £700 or £800 on something that has impulse responses built into it. You can, using a reactive load, run the signal straight back into a power amplifier. Now you get a lot of power amplifiers that are built into pedal formats. This is one that we build here, and you could just run that then straight into your normal speaker cab. So you can still play at home, still through your normal speaker cab. You're not having to get studio gear or a computer booted up or any of that kind of stuff. And it can still be a fairly cost-effective solution to getting great tone at low volume at home. So, okay guys, hopefully that was helpful for you, and it lets you get a solution that will work at home or in the studio and get you the tones you want at reasonable volumes. See you next time. Cheers.